Tifu by submitting hardcore furry erotica instead of my final paper. So I'm currently a fourth-year computer science student at a respected university, and I was looking to graduate this semester. One of the classes I was taking focused on modern advancements and trends in technology. While it didn't require too much heavy lifting, it was still a higher-level course that demanded a good amount of work. For our final, the professor assigned a 20-page research paper on a current or possible future technology of our choice. I chose to write about helium-3 power generation. I worked really hard on this paper and was proud of the final product. The papers were due last night at midnight, and I held off on submitting my draft until the last minute to make sure it was as polished as possible. Now, let me share a bit about myself. I don't have a typical job. I tried that in my first year of school and didn't enjoy it. I've done internships when I could, but outside of that, I didn't really work. To make ends meet, I turned to writing hardcore erotica on commission, specifically for the furry community. I wrote anything and everything, and at one point, I was making almost $2,500 on Patreon, plus what I charged my customers. Am I proud of this? Not really. I've written some pretty wild stuff, but it paid the bills, and the money was hard to resist. I promised myself that once I landed a real job, I would leave that behind. Well, this brings us to last night. I hadn't slept well for several nights, juggling multiple projects due in a short span. I was running on nothing but coffee and energy drinks, feeling like a walking zombie. I finally did my last read-through of my final paper and submitted it before crashing into bed. But here's where things went wrong. Instead of submitting my final paper, I accidentally sent one of the commissions I was working on. This wasn't a light piece either. It was nearly 10 pages long and included some very explicit content. When I woke up this morning, I checked my grades for my other classes and noticed an email from my professor. It simply said to come to his office after class. My heart sank. I had no idea how I was going to explain that I submitted a rather explicit story instead of my final paper. I felt completely overwhelmed. After class, I went to his office, still feeling anxious and embarrassed. I took some advice I'd read online and brought a printed copy of my actual paper with me. When I sat down with him, I was already on the verge of tears from stress. He must have sensed that, because he tried to be as kind as possible, telling me to calm down and just explain what happened. I shared my story with him, and while he didn't agree with how I was making money, he understood my reasons. He had checked the submissions after the deadline and noticed the title of my submission. It was something like Customer Commission Second Draft Doc. Since I had taken a class with him before and was an A student, he guessed that I had submitted the wrong file by mistake. He told me he read the first page and quickly realized it probably wasn't meant for him. I handed him the correct paper I had brought, and he accepted it. He said to email him the file, and he would replace the one I had submitted, assuring me that we would pretend this never happened. He even had a good sense of humor about it, mentioning that what he read was well written at least. So, while I still feel a bit mortified, I'm relieved that he understood I'm just a bit scatterbrained and not malicious. Thanks to everyone who offered advice and helped me through this nerve-wracking experience.